The story begins with a guy and a girl sitting at desks that are next to each other. The girl squints at the guy and thinks in her head that she loves him. At the next moment, her thoughts are completely immersed in how much she loves this guy, constantly repeating to herself, "I love him. I love him. I love him." And so thousands more times. "Ha, Yukio. I'll kill any reptile that looks at you. You're mine," she says in her head, continuing to admire Yukio. That's exactly the name of this guy. Suddenly, Yukio pays attention to the girl and thinks too. "Yunko. You're so cute. I love you." It immediately becomes clear that their love is mutual, but they do not know this and continue to secretly love each other. At the next moment, the girl is standing around the corner of one of the houses, squinting hard. "Yukio's at soccer right now, so I'm going to break into his apartment," Yunko decided in her head. "Haha, Yukio. How does your bed smell?" Yukio. Trying to open the door with chopsticks, the girl dreamed. As soon as she got into the guy's room, she saw that all the walls were covered with her photos. Small and large, but it clearly looked strange. Any other person, if they saw this, would think that the guy was crazy. But Yunko was not confused by this, but on the contrary, her cheeks turned pink, and it seemed that she fell in love with the guy even more. The next moment we see the guy who was following Yunko. He was standing with a camera and was preparing to take a picture of his beloved. By the way, the girl had very long, black and beautiful hair. Taking a stronger camera, Yukio took aim and was already preparing to take a picture, thinking, "Huh. How beautiful you are, Yunko." As soon as the guy wanted to press the button to take a picture, the girl turned in his direction, paying attention to him. There was a blush on her face, and she looked as much in love as possible. "Damn. She noticed me." Suddenly Yukio panicked and hid behind the corner of the building. It was obvious that he was embarrassed to show his feelings, but how it was in vain. After a while, the girl stood and thought, "How can I confess my love to Yukio? Can I say it directly?" It was in her head. Finally, she decided to confess her feelings because it's so important. Approaching the guy, she said without delay, "Yukio, can I talk to you for a minute?" There was panic on her face and fear on the guy's face. Even a drop of sweat flowed down Yukio's face. "Fuck. She found out I was stalking her. She's going to hate me." The guy thought in fear, panicking a lot and not knowing what to do. "Yukio, I love you, don't reject me, please," Yunko said sweetly and started taking a knife out of her bag. This scene clearly didn't look good. If I saw this, I would immediately call the police, well, or I would pass by. "Yukio. I love you," Yunko repeated once again, holding the knife tighter and glaring at the guy. Unexpectedly, the guy also decided to confess his feelings by saying, "Yunko, I love you too." After these words, it was as if the world was transformed and a glow of love appeared around them. "I love you so much that I'm ready to kill any woman who talks to you," Yunko suddenly said, continuing to wave her knife, confirming her words. "I love you so much that I'm ready to destroy anyone who even looks at you," the guy said, and since he didn't have a knife, he showed his intention with his eyes and facial expression in principle. After a while, it was already winter outside, and Yunko was standing at the Christmas tree while all the people were fussing around. The Christmas tree was decorated with yellow and red toys, as well as a star in the top. The next moment, Yukio appeared, all out of breath. "Sorry, Yunko, I'm late." In a hurry, he said, hoping that his girlfriend was not offended, but without changing her expression, she just said, "Merry Christmas, Yukio." Then she held out the gift towards the guy and said, "Here's my present for you. This is a list of all the women in our class. If they talk to you, they will die." Yunko had a malicious grin on his face. Yukio suddenly hugged the girl, which confused her a little and said, "I'm only talking to you, Junko." After a while, they met again on the street, but more elegant because the new year was at stake. "Yukio. Yukata suits you very well," the girl said, admiring her boyfriend. "Yunko. How sweet you are," the guy said, photographing his beloved, who was enjoying this moment. Suddenly, their photo shoot was interrupted by two girls. They were holding phones in their hands and were also smartly dressed. "You're so cool," said the first one, who was brown-haired. "I can take a picture with you?" I asked a friend, a blonde. Yukio was not at a loss and immediately took his girlfriend in his arms and said, "I take pictures only with my beloved Yunko." At the same time, Yunko herself was shaking with anger and repeating to herself, "I'll kill them. I'll kill them. I'll kill them." After a while, already at school, Yunko was sitting at her desk and reading a book. A guy with yellow hair approached her, wanting to get acquainted. "Hey, baby, what are you reading?" he asked. With a malicious grin, the girl replied. "A book, and what?" Without hesitation, the guy offered. "You're happy, honey. Do you want to go to karaoke with me?" And while he was saying this, Yukio was already standing behind him, ready for anything, so I even felt sorry for the blonde. Seeing this scene, Yunko was delighted in her thoughts. "Yukio. I get so excited when you're angry. Destroy it." When the lesson was over and there was already a break, the guy and the girl were walking down the corridor when suddenly Yunko decided to say something. "Yukio, give me your phone." At the same time, she did not ask but demanded. "What for?" Yukio asked. Suddenly taking out a knife, Yunko squinted and said. "I want to make sure you're not cheating on me." The guy didn't think for a long time, immediately took out his phone and said okay. Yunko went to her boyfriend's gallery and the only photos that were there were her photos. Front, back, side, with a cat and so on. Then she went to contacts to see who was recorded in his phone book, but there were only 2 people there. She and mom. Also, there were 1,492 photos of Yunko in the phone. The same evening, the girl was lying in her bed with the phone in her hands. Why isn't he answering? She asked herself. In the morning, there was a knock on her door, which caused her to wake up quickly. Yukio entered the room and immediately said. "Yunko. I've missed you so much." The girl showed the phone and asked. "Huh? But I sent you 30 messages." Suddenly, we were shown how the guy's phone was lying on the nightstand next to his sister's bed, who had crawled under the blanket and was shaking all over. She didn't understand who was writing so much there. The messages Yunko sent were like this. Answer. Why are you ignoring me? Answer me, I love you. If you don't answer, I'll kill you. Are you having fun with someone there? If you don't answer, I'll come for you. After a while, Yunko was walking down the street again, and Yukio was watching her again with a camera in his hands. My beautiful Yunko. The guy said, making a long exhale and constantly taking pictures of his girlfriend. Suddenly, he saw Yunko being watched by a man who was hiding behind a pillar. Yukio quickly ran out of his hiding place and grabbed the bald man by the collar. How dare you look at my Yunko? He screamed with all his might while the man tried to break free from his grip. The girl noticed this scene and became ecstatic. Yukio, you're so cute. She thought. On the same day, at school, 2 girls talked to each other. I'm so afraid to talk to him. One of them was crying, and the other was supporting her. Don't be afraid. You can do it. The first girl gathered her strength and ran up to Yukio. I think you look really cool. Closing her eyes, the girl shouted. After 10 hours. The same girl was sitting on a chair, tied to it, and to wake her up, she was doused with cold water. Junko was standing over her, with a bucket in one hand and a knife in the other. Hello, trash. I'm Yukio's girlfriend. She said. Finally, Valentine's Day came and Yunko, holding 2 boxes in her hands, turned to her boyfriend. Happy Valentine's Day, Yukio. Choose a gift. A chocolate bar from Yunko. The guy was dreaming in his head and pointed his finger at a pink one with a red ribbon, after which he said. Give me this one. As soon as he picked it up, he saw a severed finger there. Grinning maliciously, Yunko said. Oh, not that one. Here is the finger of that Chan who spoke to you a week ago. The guy immediately hugged his girlfriend and said. Yunko, you're so cute. One night, Yunko came home to a guy and sitting on him declared. Wake up, Yukio. At the same time, she had a very scary look and a knife in her hands. As soon as the guy opened his eyes, he immediately asked. Yunko, what are you doing here? She showed him her phone and indignantly replied. You didn't answer my texts. I sent you 500 pieces. Sitting on the bed, Yukio immediately answered. Ah, my sister borrowed the phone, I'm sorry. It seems to be a normal answer, but Yunko was confused by it. Putting the knife on her shoulder, she asked. Why do you need a sister? You have me. Do you want her to be gone? Yukio decided to just keep quiet about it. After a while, walking down the street, Yukio saw Yunko's house and stopped near it, watching for a while. After a while, he went inside and was met by the girl's mother. Ooh, who is this cute young man? She asked and Yukio answered right away. Hello, ma'am, I've come to meet Yunko. The girl's mom grabbed the guy by the arm and said with a smile. Yunko, you didn't say you had such a cute boyfriend. Mom, let him go. Yunko said sternly, with a knife in her hands. Mom just touched her daughter on the head and answered with a laugh. Hahaha, what a frightening look. Yukio was touched by the whole situation. One day, Yunko was sitting on a bench and looking at something on her phone when suddenly a guy with blonde hair passed by her. Hey, baby. What are you doing? He asked confidently. What are you doing? Yunko immediately turned her phone around and there was a picture of Yukio, after which he said. I look at the photos of my boyfriend. The blonde immediately declared. That's how? Let me take a look. As soon as he took a closer look, he thought. It's probably some kind of weakling. The girl at that moment said. I love Yukio so much. After which, she immediately continued. If he suddenly talks to another girl, I'll kill him. Yeah. Definitely kill him. After hearing all this, the guy immediately turned around and began to leave, saying. Well, whatever. After a while, the same guy was smoking somewhere in the alley and thinking about damn it. And this bitch was pretty hot, and why does she have to be so psychotic? Suddenly, Yukio came up to him and asked. I'm sorry, weren't you talking to Yunko? Casting a snide glance at him, the blonde man answered the question with a question. What's it to you, nerd? Yukio grabbed him by the collar the next second, which is why the blonde screamed. Hey, don't touch me, man. Making the most terrible face, Yukio said. I'm her boyfriend. Yunko belongs to me. Don't ever talk to her again. All that the blonde could answer to these words was this. Oh shit. He just said it in his head. When Yukio had already left, the blonde was sitting all battered and remembered the skirmish. How did this nerd with glasses turn out to be so strong? While he was lamenting the injustice of life, two girls approached him and started talking. Takeshi, are you okay? The first one asked. He's so sexy with those bruises. Said the second. And? Who else are you? He asked, looking at the two girls, one of whom had a bat on her shoulder. And the second one had a taser in her hands. We fell in love with you when we came to this school. Said the one with the taser. Could you be our boyfriend? If you refuse, we will be very upset. The one with the bat supported the conversation. They were Yunko's sisters and it was evident not only by their appearance, but also by their habits. At one of the lessons, when Yukio was writing something in his notebook, a knife landed on his desk and then he heard Yunko's angry voice. Last night I dreamed that you were cheating on me, explain yourself. She said, and if he can't justify himself, I'm afraid what will become of him. Suddenly, Yukio turns the camera towards the girl and says. Last night I took pictures of you sleeping through the window. Yunko immediately jumped on her boyfriend and hugged him. They had an idyll that confused the classmates around them. Then they show us the Yunko sisters again. Aiko, look. Says the first one. What's the matter, Irie? The second one asks. Isn't this guy cool? Irie asked, pointing at the guy in one of the manga. Yeah, he's cool. Aiko answers dreamily. After that, they came to the conclusion together that they want a guy like this. Many months later. The sisters were walking down the street and chatting. Irie, will there be a lot of bullies in high school? I asked Ike, to which I received an answer. I really hope so. Hot. At the same time, they declared when they saw the very blonde they fell in love with together. One night, Yunko was at home, on her bed. Sitting on the phone, she kept repeating her boyfriend's name. Suddenly, there was a knock on her door. Without delay, Yunko replied. Come in. It was her sisters who spoke. Sister. Help us. After much explanation, Junko came to a conclusion. Clear. So your boyfriend is constantly running away from you. Having understood the whole situation, she replied. If he keeps running away, just break his legs. Hearing this, the sisters were delighted. That's right. Said the first. My sister is so smart. The second one answered. After a while, our boyfriend in love was walking down the street. Thank you for inviting me, Yukio. The girl was smiling. Haha, of course. The guy answered with a smile. A man who was sitting on a bench and reading a newspaper drew attention to them. Young love is so beautiful. He declared. Meanwhile, there was news in the newspaper that body parts were being found all over Tokyo. Suddenly, Yukio and Yunko stopped and started a strange dialogue. If you look at another girl, I will stab her to death. Yunko said. If any guy looks at you, I'll strangle him. Yukio said. After hearing this, the man had no questions and love no longer seemed so beautiful. The same evening, walking down a dark street, the girl was delighted. This date was truly wonderful. She was talking, and Yukio was like an alpha male and just answered, "Yes." In the alley, which was a little further from the place where the guy and the girl were walking, there was a man with a tattoo on his neck and obviously not good intentions. He looked at our couple and laughed maliciously. Suddenly, he jumped out of the alley with a knife in his hands. "Hey you, don't move. Money on the barrel." He shouted, but the expressions on the faces of our heroes did not change at all. Yunko took out her knife and said, "What did he just say, Yukio?" The guy started kneading his fists and answered, "I'm not sure. What did you want there, old man?" After a while, the couple passed by a vending machine with toys and Yunko said, "I want this bear, Yukio. Win it for me." Of course, the guy could not refuse his girlfriend. Taking the steering wheel, Yukio lowered the lever down, grabbed the bear, but as soon as the lever went up, the bear fell. Yukio immediately squinted at the owner of this device and said, "Hey mister. Your machine is broken." A minute later, Yunko was already walking with a bear in her hands. "Thank you Yukio." "Haha, no problem." While in class, Yunko was sitting at her desk and writing something. Two girls were standing behind her and whispering, "Can we invite Yunko?" One of them asked. "She's too serious for that." The second one answered. Nevertheless, the girl decided to approach Yunko and asked, "Yunko, the girls and I are going to karaoke. Do you want to come with us?" Yunko answered immediately, "I can't. I'll be with my boyfriend." As soon as she said that, the girls imagined in their head how Yunko and Yukio were sitting in a club, drinking alcohol and chatting sweetly. "Damn it. She's more mature than we are." The girls lamented. Yunko had in her head how she approached her boyfriend with a package in her hands and said, "Guess what's in the bag?" To which Yukio asked, "Junko, why is she dripping blood?" After another date, the couple was standing by the train that Junko should get on. "See you tomorrow Yukio." She was talking. "Come home safe and sound, Junko." The guy was talking. When Yunko was already sitting in the car and reading a book, the reflection of a man who looks at Yunko with a strange look was visible in the window. The next moment, he sat down next to her and put his arm around her shoulder, after which he said, "Hey, your boyfriend looked so pathetic and weak. Don't you want to spend time with a real man?" After a while, this man was found dead in a train car and the police were doing an examination. Na is again transferred to the Yunko sisters, who are standing behind the wall and looking out for their boyfriend. "He ignores us," one of them declared. "And why would he ignore us? What an idiot," the second lamented. Suddenly, a friend of a guy who was loved by the sisters said, "Takeshi, there are two girls staring at you." Finishing his cigarette, Takeshi replied, "Just ignore them." "Why is Takeshi ignoring us? Did that kid tell him to ignore us?" The sisters discussed and exuded an incredible murderous intent towards Takeshi's friend. As soon as a friend got sick from this, the guy said, "Hey, I'm not ignoring you. And don't run into Joni." When he said that, the girls ran out joyfully from around the corner shouting, "Hooray! Takeshi. Let's go to karaoke." After a while they were at karaoke. Takeshi sat on the couch and watched the sisters sing. He was clearly uncomfortable. Damn. Their older sister is hot. But these two are just some small prashmandaki. He was thinking and just waiting to finally leave this place. The sisters suddenly turned around and started exuding murderous intent again. "Are you dreaming about other girls, Takeshi?" The first one asked. "You're cheating on us in your head again." The second asked. "No, nothing like that." In a panic, the blonde man began to justify himself and ask, "Don't hit me with a shocker anymore." One fine morning, Yunko woke up in her bed from the rays of the sun that hit her in the eyes. Her mother, at this time, was cooking something in the kitchen and listening to the news on the radio, in which they were talking. The recent wave of murders has caused an increased police presence on the streets of Tokyo. Yunko came down the stairs from her room and greeted her mother, to which the woman reciprocated. "Your dad will be coming home from prison soon." Turning her head to her daughter, her mother said. By the way, speaking of which, she was a really gorgeous woman, with huge eyes. Yes. With my eyes. Sitting in prison. Yunko's father liked to look at the family photo album, which had photos of his wife and 3 daughters. While he was doing this, a policeman came and said, "Mr. Ishikawa. It's time to go." Making a sweet smile, he declared, "Thank you Mr. Watanabe." Hugging the policeman, he said goodbye. I will miss all of you. The policeman at this time was thrown into a tremor and he hardly answered. Please don't hit me. A long time ago, when our couple was still small, Yunko turned to her dad. Dad, I don't like other kids. Really, Yunko? Why is that? The father asked, and the daughter immediately screamed. They're so noisy. Ugly. And their jokes are bad. Not good. The father grinned at this and thought. Do you want Dad to kill them? The father asked with the kindest possible face. No, that's bad. Yunko answered. After a while, at school, Yunko was pulled by the hair and she screamed. Stop it. It hurts. Two boys, one of whom was pulling the girl's hair and the other was holding scissors, were talking. She's so creepy. Let's cut off her hair. Suddenly, Yunko's father came into the classroom and saw the scene. After which he made a terrible face that reflected his whole attitude towards these children, and he said. Ah, you little bastards. Yunko's father did not touch the children, but immediately went to the parents of one of them. A man with curly hair opened the door and saw Yunko's father, who said. Good evening, sir. Your son bullied my daughter at school. What? The guy's father began to roll up his sleeves and run into. Yes? And what? Do you want money? You're not getting shit. The next moment, Yunko's father took out a huge knife and said. Actually, I had other plans in this regard. After some time, Yunko's father stood in the middle of the room covered in blood, and the parents of one of the boys were killed. Looking at this boy, he said. Don't be afraid. I won't kill you. A few days later, Yunko's father was shown on the news, and the presenter was talking. Today, all eyes are on the courthouse, where the verdict of the notorious serial killer Kiyoshi Ishikawa will be announced. When the trial was over, one of the guests in the hall was screaming. Just 10 years? Everything is bribed. He killed 2 innocent families. The father himself stood over Yunko and they were constantly clicking their cameras, talking. Why did you do that? Are you a psychopath? Do you regret what you did? When Ishikawa was already in prison, after a while, Junko started going to school again. Now no one talked to her at all and only whispered behind her back. Be careful with her. Her father killed 2 whole families because their sons bullied her. One boy explained to another, to which he answered briefly. It's creepy. But there was still one guy who was not afraid of her. He approached the girl's desk and asked. Can I see your drawing, Yunko? Aren't you afraid of me? The girl asked with a little surprise. The guy smiled sweetly and replied. Your dad did bad things to people who hurt you, right? So as long as I'm kind to you, I'll be fine. The girl blushed from such words. That's how the love of our main characters began. It's our time again. Yunko was standing in her room, dressed as a vampire and looking in the mirror. Good. I'm ready for the Halloween party. As soon as she left her house, a scary silhouette appeared in front of her. A man in a Jason mask from the movie Friday the 13th loomed over her. But the girl quickly recognized her boyfriend, who had to take off his mask when he was declassified. Yukio. You're wearing the costume I made for you. Admired the girl. It's a nice suit. Thank you, Yunko. After a while, when the couple met again at school, Yunko started a conversation. Good morning, Yukio. Is something wrong, Yunko? You usually smile. The guy was surprised. Dad is released home from prison ahead of schedule. Without changing her expression, the girl replied. Congratulations, Yunko. The guy was delighted. The girl immediately began to take the knife out of her bag, after which she said. Come to dinner and get to know each other. Yukio didn't understand what these threats were about and immediately responded. No need for threats, I'll come. When school ended, Yunko went into her house and immediately said. Mom, I'm back from school. In the kitchen, at the table, the rest of the family was sitting and Mom immediately said. Welcome back, Yunko. Look who it is here with us. Naturally, my father was sitting next to me, who smiled and said. It's been a long time, Yunko. I missed you so much. It's been 7 years since you stopped visiting me. You must have been studying hard all this time. But the girl was not happy at all and just answered. I'm going to my room. One evening, Yunko's parents were sitting in a restaurant with a gorgeous view and chatting sweetly. I'm so glad you're back, Kiyoshi. Haha, I promised. Suddenly, the father became sad and began to talk. I wonder what happened to Yunko, she even. But he did not have time to finish as he was interrupted by a man. Ishikawa. Is it you? The father immediately drew attention to this man. Oh, supervisor. Glad to see you again. Kiyoshi said, recognizing the man who also decided to support the dialogue. We've already missed you in prison, Ishikawa. Yunko. You're so beautiful. Yukio thought, looking at the camera. Although, you look sad in the last photos. He continued to think, looking at the photos of his beloved. Wait. And who is this? Suddenly, Yukio was indignant and began to zoom in on the picture. In the photo, in the background, stood her father. Suddenly, we are transported to Takeshi, who was sitting on a chair and was tied to him. Who are you? What do you want? He was shouting. Kiyoshi smiled sweetly and spoke calmly. Hello Takeshi. My twin daughters posted on social media that you're dating them. I have a few questions. Suddenly, Yunko began to descend into the basement with a bag in her hands, from which blood was dripping. The basement is occupied, Yunko. The father said calmly, which upset his daughter. After a while, Takeshi was sitting on a bench, all exhausted and complaining about life. Why did my life turn out this way? Last night, Yunko's father told him. I'll let you go, but on one condition. You will never speak to my daughters or look at them again. Takeshi, hearing such a suggestion, immediately screamed. Thank you. I promise I won't let you down. Suddenly, the sisters looked out from around the corner, saying. Takeshi. Where were you last night? They ran closer to him and started shouting, asking. You didn't cheat on us, did you? If you try to leave us, we will hurt you. Hey, why are you silent? Is Takeshi sad? The twins continued their interrogation. After some time, the blonde decided to answer. Just leave me alone. With such an answer, he caused the girls to be stunned and ask a question. What? He decided to repeat, only louder. Just leave me alone. My life became hell the moment I met you two. And now your psychopathic dad is threatening me. Just get out of my life. At first, the girls were shocked. Then they started shaking and wanted to cry. At that moment, Takeshi thought about what their father might say. Did you make my daughters cry? Then I got scared. Oh shit, what have I done? We are transferred to Yukio, who is sleeping peacefully in his bed. Suddenly there was a knock on his window and he woke up. Taking the glasses in his hands and starting to put them on, he wondered. Knocking on the window? Well, yes, it's a rarity who thinks of entering through the window. Yunko was standing outside the window with a hammer in her hands, saying. Yukio. Let me in, or I'll break the glass. The next moment, they were already sitting under a blanket and watching a movie on a laptop. Yunko, are you alright? I decided to ask Yukio. Yes. Now yes. The girl replied calmly. Ah. My legs. Suddenly came from the laptop and the girl said. Yukio, look at all this blood. She's so beautiful. She seems to like this movie. The guy thought. One day, the twin sisters decided to come to their father and be outraged. Dad, why did you threaten our boyfriend? The first one asked. If you hurt him, we won't forgive you. Claimed the second. Dad calmly replied. You girls are still too young to have a boyfriend. Besides, it's not good to divide a guy into two. Hearing such an answer, they were outraged. It's not fair. We share everything. Yunko has a boyfriend, why can't we? Suddenly, the father made a serious face and replied. Oh. Don't worry about him. Yes, Dad. Having calmed down, one of the sisters answered, after which the father continued. No more dating until you're older, got it? Yes, the second sister replied. Late at night, Yunko returned home. When she came into the house, she had her usual sad face. Her father met her, with a sweet smile and words. You're late, Yunko. Where have you been? It's none of your business. The girl replied with disdain. At your boyfriend's, I suppose? Did you invite him to dinner like I asked? My father asked. One day at school, a girl met her lover in the hallway. Good morning, Yukio. Ah, Yunko. Good morning. She decided to remind Yukio of something, taking out the knife again, she stated. We're having dinner with my family tomorrow. You'll come, won't you? I'll come, don't worry. The guy answered with a smile. Thank you, Yukio. The atmosphere of love and tenderness reigned between them again. At this time, at Yunko's house. Honey, I'm home. Kiyoshi said when he entered the kitchen and saw his wife. Welcome back, dear. They immediately joined hands and Mom asked. Can't you wait to meet Yunko's boyfriend? I'm very excited. The father answered. I can't wait to meet him. From Kiyoshi's look, it was possible to understand what was coming, something not very good. I'll cook something delicious. Mom answered with a sweet smile.